You're ready, man.
In Kexu, Poor People's Revolutionary Radio at 96.1 on the dial in East Oakland, Cochin territory, and streaming live online at www.poormagazine.org/radio. This is your co-host Muteado Silencio con voces de inmigrantes en resistencia. With formerly houseless poverty scholars Tiburcio Garcia, Tiny, aka Poverty Scholar.
Do you even remember us when we're gone? Do you even remember us when we're gone? No tears were shed or goodbye songs. No litigation is pled for this unseen pawn. Do you remember us when we're gone? Swept to nowhere, so you don't even know if we were ever there. But look and sigh. No more confusing humanity that you have to ignore and walk quickly by. Trashifying of our bodies, unseeing us because we weren't ever meant to be there. Swept and swept and swept to death. Bulldozers, backhoes, trash cans, and back seats of towed vans. Do you even remember us when we're gone?
From Tobangar to Yoko Lands, from the compound to Wood Street Commons to Mosswood, this week Poor People's Radio, the War on the Poor Report, will feature warriors from all across SoCal, California, who can never rest because they are sweeping us to death. We will speak with relatives from the Etna Street Solidarity in SoCal, Los Angeles, Mosswood Park in Wood Street, and then Sister Des from SoCal, Fresno, struggling for justice for the First Nation House's elder arrested under the violent new laws in that settler town. All of that in this week edition of the Edition Doula after this short music break.
Yeah, relatives, again, swept to death. Swept and swept and swept to death. Sometimes it's hard to hold this violence in our collective hearts. And I want to say that liberation is what we've got. Holding each other is what we've got. I want to shout out to the warriors that we've lost in these violent wars on the poor. Sending prayer smoke up to Brother James Edward Oakley, run over by a bulldozer in so-called Vallejo.
Oh.
Sending out prayer smoke to Cornelius Taylor in so-called Atlanta, run over by a bulldozer in that settler town. To Shanna Marie Bigley in so-called Fresno, Yokut lands, and so many more. We're holding all of our relatives together. And we're also walking in liberation because Mama Earth is not for sale. Today on our War on the Poor report, we're blessed to have fellow warriors, both in the studio, on the digital streets, I want to shout out that our warriors from so-called LA, from Etna Street Solidarity, welcome relatives. So thankful that you're with us.
Hey,
Thanks, y'all.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Beautiful. Thank you, family. And for those of you who don't know, we're working closely with our relatives in Tavangar, aka so-called LA, to build a homeless people solution to homelessness. We call homefulness. And they're going to be telling us about the violence that they're facing, all happening this week, along with our relatives right here in Uchun. We are blessed to have on the digital streets the beautiful sister warrior and homefulness resident, but longtime Wood Street Commons houseless resident and leader and warrior, Leger. Welcome back to your family.
Hey, all right, Jay.
Hey, and in the
next door.
yeah, that's right. We won't talk about that LA move, okay? I didn't even hear that. In the studio, we're blessed to have a warrior relative, Freeway from Wood Street Commons. What's up, Freeway?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thanks for making it in and out, all the studios and all the spaces and places where we are wandering the earth, talking liberation every day. I don't know if our relative from Wood Street Mosswood is able to get on. I don't know if they've gotten there yet, but we're going to have a family member from Wood Street as well as his sister Des joined us yet from Fresno. Do you know? Okay. So let's go ahead and start talking, family. We know that there are multiple sweeps, and I don't even want to use this word because it's, to me, another codified word that takes the violence out of it. Like, there's just this giant, golden broom that's kind of sweeping us away. And like, who's us? And there's no humanity in that. So I'm going to deconstruct that, and I want to actually call it what it is: removal, eviction, violent displacement,
Yes.
theft, and basically an act of violence, right? We know that literally every Monday we have had emergency press conferences. And people might wonder, what the heck are y'all doing? It's called an emergency every day when we outside.
Yes.
That's what it is. So people are like confuddled by these constant emergency press conferences. We're just not going to let people be removed, displaced, violently evicted without naming, claiming, and lifting up.
Right.
And that's why we're doing it. Because what else the F can we do? So I want to start with our relatives in so-called LA, aka Tavangar. If you could tell us what's looming right now for you guys, because it's not an accident that there's this non-stop sweep violence or removal violence that's all happening at the same time all across so-called California. So tell us what's going on in so-called LA, family.
Well, what's going on is that we're supposed to be having a major sweep this coming Thursday, which is in 2 days. And it's something that's been like looming over us. We don't know what's quite going to happen. Like, we keep hearing different things. Like, and we've been moving all of our trash from the back to the front. And they say, yeah, if you do that, we won't sweep everybody. But there's no promise of that. And so it's just still up in the air. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Like, we don't know if they're going to be coming in with bulldozers. We don't know if they're going to be okay with us already moving all the trash from the back to the front and being like, okay, you guys, are complying, which, all in-house people will comply with when given notice. And so it's just, like I said, it's really up in the air. Like, I don't know what's going on. Nobody does. And they just love posting these little posters saying, hey, we're doing a sweep. And, like, it's, it's very, like, gives everybody, gives me anxiety. And it just makes me uneasy and restful, like, when we coming up to these trash pickup days or anything like that. Because we don't know what they're going to do to us in the house, and it seems like they can do whatever they please when they please.
Yeah.
um, which just it's it sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just for listeners and viewers. That's badass warrior sister Jelly. We love you, Jelly.
I love
Currently,
y'all too.
currently residing in this place that's this so-called compound. Carla or Paisley, can you tell us a little bit about this so-called place called the compound where they're about to do this violent sweep of so many relatives?
Yeah, so the compound is on so-called federal land that is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. So they also are in charge of the LA River. They're also in charge of the Altadena fire recovery. So we're dealing with a federal entity that has leased the land to Parks and Rec. So this is city, federal lands, but no one seems to really have any answers for the 75 people that call the compound home. And it's it's one of the largest communities of houseless people in the San Fernando Valley here, and so for people to not know, what their future is on Thursday, like what is going to happen, has been really devastating already for people. But people here are really angry, and they're also organized as well. They've organized their own trash pickup, have removed over like half a ton of scrap metal to support their own community program.
Oh.
They have their own, they've agitated to get porta potties here. And so this is it's a fierce, interdependent community and it's deeply intergenerational. You have young people, elders, people with disabilities. They move as a unit of 75 people who care for each other, who meet each other's needs. And there's like no communication from Army Corps of Engineers or the city or Parks and Rec. They have in the past have come out with shotguns to clear this land.
Shotguns.
The people here have been really dedicated. We're taking this call right now from a community night where we feed each other and support each other, figure out exactly what's needed, and resource and support each other. So we don't know what Thursday will bring, but people have been living here for many years. And I just wanted to also note that there was a settlement for this LA Alliance case, which is a bullshit NIMBYs who sued the city basically to run houseless people out of LA. And I was like, we have over 75,000 people who live on the streets in LA, so you can't run out a city within a city of people who are already surviving on these lands. But they're going to be priority removing people living within 500 feet of freeways. And so the compound is within 500 feet of the 405 freeway. And so just because of where they sit geographically, they're going to be prioritized for removal, not based on need, or that's how the city prioritizes based on who they feel is an eyesore and needs to be removed. And so that came down from Judge Carter today. And so they have their plans to remove people, but we just want to always highlight, the things that people here at the compound are doing and what their dreams and what their hopes are and their plans and their solutions.
Oh, that's what's up. Paisley, did you want to add any?
Do all of this, and they're not giving anybody any type of options for anything. Like they want to come down and take everybody's name down, but not offer them any type of assistance or support or anything. So it's like, I understand, like, well, I do understand. They're trying to kill us, but that's not right. But it's just it hurts my heart because it's like we are a community and like we really try to stick together and we really try to support each other. And in all honesty, we are like the what people should like do in a natural thing. Like you're supposed to support your neighbor. Like you're supposed to be there for your brothers and sisters that are around. Like this displacement and and everything, and the judgments, and the misconceptions are just getting worse and worse, and you know,
Yes. Thank you, Jelly. I wanted to talk a little bit about what services they're supplying, but I do want to name that. I want to hear from the other relatives too, because there's a similarity in all of the way they're doing this. So I want to come back to you guys about the so-called not services they're not providing. I do want to say one of the things that you brought up, which is extremely important, which is the same thing that happened at the Wood Street Commons, which is another homeless people solution to homelessness. Hello, right? Mosswood, all of these spaces and places are what I call radical interdependence. Yes, we take care of each other. That's what us poor people do.
Right.
Hello. And the way that that's never seen, right? The way that we are constantly not only criminalized but dehumanized. Let me bring in Leger. If you could tell us a little bit about the last emergency press conference we just had to do at the last little holdout of relatives at Wood Street Commons. What was going down?
Yeah, well, after the city had destroyed our community in 2023, they made all these promises of these great community cabins and RV sanctioned lots, which are just crap. And, those are closing down in June because of all the funding. But there was some people, for whatever reason or not, some people that wasn't enough space for them, or some people who just didn't want to get rid of everything that they owned. Like for me, they told me if I went into a community cabin, they would destroy my RV. I couldn't take everything with me. And so yeah, we have a lot of friends that kind of, still want their own sovereignty. They just want to live and do what they're doing and live their life. And they were, still stretched around Wood Street, and they're trying to get rid of them also.
Yeah.
They're not offering any places because, like I just said, there is community cabins that they would normally offer to people the option to move into are getting shut down in June. So there's a lot of empty community cabins right now. And so they're basically just destroying people's property and causing more harm to folks. And so that's what the press conference was. It was the remainder of our family on Wood Street that basically they're just, sweeping over and over and over and over again. And they did a sneak attack. They literally came a week or so before at like 8 in the morning and was like, oh, we got a fire report that this is a dangerous area and we're sweeping you right now. And we have a really strong sweeps defense crew. Shout out to Love and Justice in the Streets and Jazz and Satya. And they're always on top of it. They always have a U-Haul on site. They have folks that can help people tow. And so they set up these barricades, these safe work zones. You'll get arrested if you go on the other side. And then they say, no, you can't help anybody tow their stuff. And so it's just, it just shows more that they really just want to destroy our lives and make us have nothing at all so that we can die.
That part, that's what they want. And that's why we also connect the dots to our relatives in all of these occupied lands. This is another form of genocide, straight up, and free Palestine, and free Sudan, and Haiti, and West Papua, and Kashmir, and right here. Let me bring in Warrior Family, who's in the studio with us, also Wood Street Commons, and maybe we can talk a little bit about Mosswood. So Mosswood Park, tell us what's going on there. Another spot in Ochun, right?
So here we are again. This is not anything that's not familiar to us. In 2020, my husband and I actually lived in Mosswood, and the same thing was happening back then. You've got this organization that is supposed to be doing outreach before the sweeps, and they are, either not showing up or showing up very scantily, or not scantily, you know what I mean, very scarcely, and just and not offering any real services. At the sweep that happened last week at the lake, we told people, or we were asking people, how do they offer you any services? Do they come through? Do they give you any notice? And you know, there was one couple that was offered any services, and they were given a respite bed. But that was it. Like everybody else, either didn't even see them, or they were told, "Oh yeah, if you're wanting services, we'll have somebody on site the day of the sweep to offer services." And then they weren't there for that either. So this is just a continuing thing. With Mosswood in particular, it's a little bit harder for me to see again because so many of my friends that I have lived with on the streets are there. And so this is not, this is a little closer to home. I know folks like the friend that was going to join us tonight, and of course life is life a little too hard right now, so he was not able to join in. But you know, he was not even offered any services at the Extended Stay America that they're saying they're putting everybody in at Mosswood, but they're not. If you weren't there for 3 specific census taking events, basically, and you had to be there for all 3, if you weren't there for any reason, then you weren't counted as somebody who lives at Mosswood, and that's the category that he falls into. So now he's looking at getting swept in a really big way, and he has nowhere to go because there is nowhere to go. That seems to be the continuing question: is where is everybody supposed to go? And there's no answer for that.
Wow.
The J guys, you know.
Yeah. Do you want to add something?
Add a little bit to that, and what's really messed up is that the city of Oakland got some federal money. I don't even know where the money came from, but it was about $7 million to provide housing, temporary supportive housing for 3 large encampments: Mosswood, MLK, and West Grand, and also East 12th. And what we saw that happen with MLK and West Grand, who were supposed to also be one of the recipients to be, mind you now, 3 huge encampment communities. There's only 105 rooms there, okay? Right. So they don't have space even to cover 130 people at Mosswood in itself. What they did with West Grand is that they came in months ago and swept all those people, scattered them around, so now that even if the outreach team for the extended stay comes around, these people are all, scattered, and there's no way for them to even see if they've qualified to move into the extended stay. And I feel like that's what they're doing with Mosswood. We actually got to speak with the person who's overseeing the whole project, because we're also about solutions. So we're trying to find ways that we could be supportive when they do move all these people there, so that they can have all kinds of wraparound services and the things that they need. But we also see that, they're not ready to move folks into to extended stay. So if they're planning on sweeping on Monday, they're hoping probably to get rid of a lot of those folks also. Where are they going to go? Because the place isn't ready to be moved in. Don't quote me for sure, but I'm pretty sure they said it won't be ready until spring 2026 to actually move folks in.
Right.
So it just feels like they're like, oh yeah, we got all this money for these 3 communities, but we're still going to go along and sweep them and get rid of them. And then, some random people will be put in there. It's really
so let me bring as we're talking about the anti-social workers and the case manglers and the philanthropists and all of the other politics that are going on with our lives, like we're not human because we aren't in the eyes. I'd like to bring our relatives back from Stavanger, LA. What have they been offering the relatives at the compound? Anything? So you want to start, Paisley? Maybe Paisley want to start?
Nothing. I'm sure, Jelly, you can also, verify, but unlike in the past where they do at least attempt on paper to provide something, right? You can get a hotel, they're not offering anything.
They said they're waiting for these supposed beds to be open.
No, they also said, what they said was that there were too many people, and because they couldn't house 30 people here at the compound, they were going to house nobody.
Wow.
They told people. That was what they said. They were like, you know what, we actually don't have the resources. They can't account for $1 billion that have gone missing from homelessness funding. Loss of the main the agency that deals with homelessness literally had been decommissioned, and so it's so similar to what Leger was saying. They're like, we don't have the resources, we don't have anything to offer people, but we're still going to do the sweep because at the bottom line is like it's about removal, displacement, and enforcement. And so they even admitted to people at the compound, you don't have the ability to house you. And the compound, people here have been taking care of each other, supporting each other, without any resources, have been doing what like the city refuses to do, because they don't care for the people here. And it's the people here who've been doing that work 24/7, day in, day out. And so it's a real, it's beyond a slap in the face. They actually have to learn from communities like the compound, who are not just, these are people who've also been displaced and removed from Etna Street. So Etna Street's completely fenced off and closed off, supposedly for the Olympics. They're trying to renovate the metro station in time for the Olympics, and no one needed a new metro station. We needed housing, we needed showers, we needed care, we needed so many things, but we didn't need a station in time for the Olympics. That to me is what's so beyond. They have no connection to the real needs and the people that actually make our communities run. And it's really like the 75 people here at the compound have been doing the work that the city won't do, and they won't. They've been, people here have been providing the sanctuary, building the sanctuary from the ground up, and to us, that's, that we need to like support that, and we need to resource that rather than destroy it and take it away.
Yes, definitely. I just want to name something while we're doing this, and then I want to come around to everybody to talk about these
the other brother from Maswood was there.
Valid solutions.
John.
Oh, Maswood, he's here?
Yeah.
John.
Yes.
John, yeah. Let's bring in John. John, who's currently a resident of one of the spots in Uchun that is facing immediate violent displacement. John, can you tell us what the shitty gangsters, the politricksters, have told you?
Yeah, so they showed up last week, I think on Wednesday or something like that. And they told me that they had done the canvas a year before, 6 months ago also, and that day, and that unless you were there and present for all three canvases, that they were not going to provide any services, and have a good day.
Wow. Do you personally, John, have anywhere to go other than just another, impossible spot?
No. They run you in circles. That's the name of the game these days.
Yeah.
Evict you, then evict you again next month.
Yeah, exactly. They're evicting us. I want to name right now, because I want to, before we run out of time for the show, I want to spend some time talking about our own solutions, because we have them. And I do want to name that our communities, our street communities, are solutions. It's the settler colonial lies that calls them not solutions. So let's not get that twisted. As we heard from Jelly and Paisley and Carla, as we heard from Leger and Freeway and John, we create communities. These are not encampments. That's a military-industrial complex word. These are solutions, and they destroy them, right? Because they don't fit with the settler lie of private and so-called public property. But I want to name that in this place, this really, really sad place in Tavangar that me and Ma used to park when we were on the street in a hoopty, or many times in the parking lot with no hoopty, that was because it was towed. It's called the City of Industry. And apparently it was a lot of old, they were new unused RVs. And a houseless community basically inhabited them, and we'd been living in them for a while. And I was like, now that's a different kind of reclamation, okay? That's what I'm talking about. Reclamation for liberation. Can I get a witness? But having said that, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our solutions, and in addition to our communities, our street communities. Currently in Uchun, our Wood Street family is working with a pro bono architect, and they're trying to create this beautiful concept of Wood Street community. Can you speak a little bit on it?
Absolutely. So in 2023, after we got swept and just a handful of us were staying in the cabins, the architect, Mike Piatok, who actually was contracted by the city to design the cabins, was as disgusted with them as we were and reached out to us and was basically like, yo, I gotta, in so many words, I gotta make this right. So he started working with us. For months, we would just basically have these weekly meetings of back and forth of, yes, this is great, keep this, change that, blah, blah, blah. So then fast forward to about a year of those meetings, and the first public presentation was given about the abandoned army base over on Wake Avenue and the designs that we had, the concepts we had designed with him to house people there and to offer services and the same community that we had on Wood Street in a more, I guess, legitimized way, if you want to call it that. And then over the past couple of years, it's just grown. Every time we find another vacant lot or another abandoned building that we want to take over, so to speak, we're like, hey Mike, can you design something for this for this spot or for this vacant land? Because there's so many vacant lots in that land.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous. We've been canvassing with folks and trying to raise awareness around this topic, and I mean, there's so many. There's like there's like 4 vacant lots for every one unhoused person in Oakland. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Right.
So I mean, he's really been awesome. He's actually, our most recent design with him was for the extended stay, or for near the extended stay, for what we're calling the academy, and it would basically there'd be a place for a night shelter. There would be a place for physical, mental, dental health, fitness station, a community kitchen, a community garden. The things that we had as a community on the streets that the city does not seem to think are important, that are so important.
Thank you, Freeway. I know, Leger, I just wanted to say that the city, and because I've been involved with this from the gate, and the city is doing bait and switch, which I know they do to all of our communities when we so-called have our solutions, which is why we say politics didn't build homefulness. But Leger, come on in and tell what you're going to say.
I just was going to say really quickly, and what's different about like our solutions and us working with Mike Piatok and trying to really get in there while they're building all these new beautiful properties is that it doesn't end, like homelessness doesn't end with just locking somebody away in a shelter.
That part.
They're taking our communities apart. They're trying to isolate us. And so that's what's important for Wood Street, for Etna Street, for all of us with lived experience to be at the table, because there's a lot of healing that we need to go through when we're in housing, getting just used to cooking on a regular stove and not a propane stove anymore. There's just things that all of these politicians and all these builders that they don't think about. And so that's what's also important. Our solutions, they need to make sure that people can stay housed and can stay alive.
Ashe, we always say we don't just need a roof, we need healing. Go ahead, Jelly Paisley, Carla, about our liberation dream in Tavanga.
And this is why we're building homefulness in Tavanga. And
Yes.
the city is admitting it can't do what needs to be done, and who will do it? But
We will.
We will. Those
Oh.
That's how it has to be. Like,
My dear.
we have love and some type of respect for one each other where we like, okay, yes, you're deserving. So, like we all are, exactly. And just like we realize that and we understand that, and like, so our community is built around all our love and support of each other, and that is what we need. I'm like, all these other things that they're trying to throw at us to put a quick Band-Aid over over this major problem is just not working, and we're coming with a solution. And
Oh,
it's for us to work together. So,
Ashe, Ashe. Politics didn't build homefulness, and capitalism caused homelessness. So how could the capitalists come up with a solution? John, did you want to weigh in on any solutions, thoughts that you've been having? Wait, hold on. Just want to make sure
Oh,
you
you
got your
kicked out?
sound on. Is he there?
Yeah, I think.
John.
It seems like he got kicked out, but now he's back in.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, unmute yourself if you can.
John, did you want to add anything in terms of dreams or visions and what you would create?
Dreams or visions? Yeah, no. I hadn't thought about that.
That's real. That's because they got us down chasing our own tail with this mess.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find potable water to this.
Right? Okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. I just want to say, John, we appreciate you. We're going to be standing with you. You know how we do. Poor Magazine will be there no matter what. And go ahead, Freeway. What?
Oh, do you want to talk about Monday?
Yeah, let's talk about Monday.
Monday morning at 8:30, we will be standing with Mosswood folks in solidarity again. Poor Magazine, Wood Street Commons, Oakland Homeless Union, Love and Justice in the Streets. We're gonna be showing up for our unhoused neighbors before like we have every time before, and like we're gonna continue to do. And
keep fighting.
hopefully, maybe this time the city won't try to withhold food from people.
That part. We're inviting all media and all listeners and all viewers to stand with us. We're framing it a little bit differently. It's not emergency press conference. It's just an emergency every day when we outside. And so what we're asking people to do is come with us and witness and support our relatives who are being violently removed, displaced, and evicted again. What's the call out from Tavanga relatives down there?
We joined us on Thursday morning at the compound, so we're at the corners of
You're coming in and out, folks.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Unfortunately.
right by the freeway right now. Sorry.
Oh, it's really loud, so the cars are making. It's
Yeah,
like
unfortunately,
messing
you're
up the noise.
outside. The compound, though, I think you're asking people to stand with you on Thursday? Okay. So, yeah, and please, relatives, support Etna Street Solidarity. You can get them on Instascam, IG Etna Street, AETNA Street Solidarity on IG. Stand with us at Mosswood on Monday at 8:30. Support Wood Street Commons at woodstreetcommons.org. Push the city to actually do something. It's so-called C-election day up here. Will the new mayor operate differently? That remains to be seen. We love you all, relatives. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to take a short music break, and we'll be right back with the addiction. That's PNN, not CNN, people. Poor People's Revolutionary Radio. We are here reporting on the violent war on the poor. And we also are reporting on liberation. Because Mama Earth is not for sale. And because just because we don't have access to the lie of rent, it doesn't mean we have to end up in a tent. But that's where all of us poor and houseless people are, and then they take our tent. So we are living into liberation. You're seeing a small piece of homefulness here, the Homeless People's Solution to Homelessness, where just like our relatives in Chiapas and in South Africa, Abalali, Mojodolo, Shakwala's Union, we have our own little micro radio station here where it's liberation, right, all the time. Or at least when we can square and steal away some time. Shout out to Tibu on the ones and twos is figuring this out, which is really hard because us poor peoples are caught in the digital divide. That's real too. But I do want to say that this media creation is a survival tool. As us folks who have been talked about without and who continue to be silenced, removed, and disrespected and degraded, when we can speak our own stories, that's liberation, that's power. So thank you, listeners and viewers who tune in, folks who share this, we appreciate you. The only reason us poor folks who don't have two nickels to put together can even be here is because folks with different forms of race and class privilege radically redistribute. So us poor peoples can create our own solution. Let's support solutions like Wood Street Commons. Let's support homefulness. We're trying to build homefulness too right now on Black Arthur. And we can't even afford the solar that we need for all the houses because we're trying to do off-grid, humble on Mama Earth solution. Having said that, our relatives also need to heal. And healing is part of liberation, especially for us folks who are so traumatized by these multiple intersections of violence that happens to us on the street through this racist, classist, false border system. We're always struggling with that at Homefulness. And so one of our powerful warriors you got to meet earlier, none other than Leger, who's currently a resident of Homefulness. Part of her work now is to create a series of podcasts called The Addiction Doula. Beautiful work on healing. Shout out to the other powerful radio creators here, Poor People's Radio creators, Dr. Sweet, and in the spirit of Nat Turner to We're All Connected, Pignon, and the People's Botanica, and Slave Revolt Radio, so many. Check out our whole lineup at www.poormagazine.org/radio. But we're going to close out tonight with a liberation healing with the Addiction Doula. Stay tuned. Listen up. cookies.
Oh wait. Say it.
Anyway.
Say it.
By next week, we'll figure this out, relatives. You need to listen to Addiction Duel. It's so powerful. If you listen and find, go on to SoundCloud. You can listen to their podcast, and also if you listen to this whole show on SoundCloud or Spotify or iHeart or wherever you get your podcasts, you can hear the entire show.
And we're getting closer and closer to a perfect show, so just bear with us. And again, so that's all for these broadcasts of Poor People's Radio. You can follow us on Facebook, X, or Instagram. Poor Magazine, a Property Scholar, a Poor News Network on YouTube. You can also get this complete Poor People's Radio podcast with all the interviews and conversation of any of our previous archive shows or iTunes on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, or whatever you get your podcast from. All power to the people.
That's why she was calling us.